Now let's talk about sharps and flats. So we've been working our way up to this point. We talked about notes, we talked about intervals, so how they are the distance between two notes. We talked about tones and semitones. We said that semitones, they are the shortest interval between two notes. Like if you can play a note between two notes, then those two notes are semitones apart, or a half step apart from each other. So now talking about sharps and flats. What are sharps and flats? Sharps raise up is just a musical denotation. Uh, notation, I mean. Uh, they raise up any notes by one half step, okay? Or semitone. And flats lower any notes by one half step or semitone. Okay, so this is what a sharp sign looks like. This is not a hashtag. Okay, a hashtag is like this or something like that. This is a sharp. But when you're writing, people, I mean, sometimes you don't have the patience to deal with the nuances of the differences. And this is a flat sign, so it's kind of like a pregnant bee. So this is a bee, and then you make a bee pregnant or something. That's what it taught me. But that's what it taught me. But most times when we're typing in the keyboard, we don't have this symbol there, so we just use a hashtag and a B. But these are not the correct ways to write it at all. You're not going to see a sheet music with this. You're going to see a sharp sign and a pregnant B, pretty much. Anyway, so what do I mean by the raise? So sharp raises a note by one half step. So let's say we have C. That's what I'm talking about, because that's the easiest thing to deal with you. Let's say we have C. Okay, let's raise C by one half step. You put a sharp to it. Maybe let's say we have E. Now, flats, what do they do? Let's lower E by one half step. So E becomes E flat. Now, if you remember what a half step is or semitone is, I'm going to be using those two words interchangeably. They mean the same thing. A half step or a semitone. If you remember what I talked about in the previous videos, you'd see that we're going like the smallest interval down in our keyboard, on our keyboard. So let's take a look at this. Okay, now remember that I said not all keyboards start with C at the beginning, so this one starts with an A or something. All right, so for a keyboard with 88 keys, the first key is A. For the keyboard with 76 keys, the first key is E, and for keyboard with 61 keys, C. But you don't need to memorize, oh, this keyboard has 88 keys, so it's hard to know. All you need to know is where the location of C is based on these sets, okay? So that would C, and that will be F. I've said this like a million times, so by now you should remember that. Now, back to sharps and flats, okay? So we have this key on the keyboard here, A, right? And sharp is like, oh, let's raise A by a half step. Now a half step is the smallest distance, right? And the smallest distance means you have to play the next note on your keyboard. Like you can't skip any key on your keyboard, be it black, be it white, you can't skip any key. So play the next note. All right, which is this one. I don't know what I drew there. So the next thing to play will be this black key. All right, this black key right here. So what have we done? We have taken A and we've sharpened it, pretty much. We've sharpened it, and now it's kind of a half step higher than A, okay? But the same key, right? We're looking from the point of view of, this guy here, B. And flat is like, oh, let's flatten B. And when you flatten B, you're taking it lower by 1/2 step or 1 semitone. So this black key can be referred to as an A sharp or a B flat. So one key can be both a sharp and a flattened note based on where you're looking at it from. So let's do that exercise again. All right. So we're in C, right? And we want to sharpen it. So we go higher, right? I said when you're moving this way, you're going higher on your keyboard. And when you're moving this way, you're going lower on your keyboard. So we are moving this way. So we're sharpening it, the C. So this becomes a C sharp. All right. But if we're going backwards now, and we're looking at a point of view from D, and we want to flatten D, this becomes a D flat, but it's the same black key we are referring to. So that black key there is either a C sharp or a D flat. Okay, so the same thing applies to this black key here, this black key here, this black key here, this black key here. They all have two names, okay, because they're superior to the white keys. So they all have two names. The thing in music is that they don't usually, like, there are certain times where it's better for you to say C sharp as opposed to D flat, right? And it's better to say E flat as opposed to D sharp. There are just those times in music. What most musicians do, I don't know if it's actually kind of like a legit rule or anything, but the notes that don't have a sharp or a flat, like E, now there's no black key here. So if you notice, there's no E sharp or F flat. Remember I told you to make note of these two pairs, okay? These two pairs. So between B and C, there's no B sharp or C flat, okay? So you have to remember this. There are no black keys between E and F. There are no black keys between B and C. So there are no sharps for B or flats for C or flats for F, anything of that sort. You have to remember that. Now what happens is that in music, because E doesn't have an E sharp and B doesn't have a B sharp, they want E to have something. So instead of calling this D sharp, they usually call it E flat. And instead of calling this A sharp, they usually call it B flat. Just so that, they're not crying, right? Those notes are not crying. So they usually go A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, okay, G, G sharp. And most of the time, I think they call it A flat. I've seen most people use A flat instead of G sharp, but I don't really care. You could use anything. A, B flat, B, C, C sharp. I don't think I've heard people say D flat before, but it's usually C sharp that's much common. So D, E flat. I think I've heard more D sharp than D flat. E, F, and so on and so forth. So you get the point by now. What those black keys are, they are just sharps and flats of the key before or after it. Okay, so now that we know that, we're just gonna stop this video here and continue in the next video, which is going to be interesting and just a continuation of this. All right, see you there. Bye.